And welcome back once again to How to Survive 2025. I'm Brian Keene,
And I am Jim Cobb.
and Dacia M. Arnold is on vacation this week. It's her anniversary. So happy anniversary, Dacia.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she was a little concerned that Jim and I might not be able to do this by ourselves. But Jim, I think we can do this, right?
In our defense, we were unsupervised.
So this episode we are going to talk about going gray. And that's probably why Dacia didn't want to be on. She's a young girl. She doesn't know anything about turning gray yet. You and I do, but we are not talking, of course, about our hair or the Grateful Dead song. We're talking about the ability to blend in and be unseen in a crowd. Um, we normally do not talk politics on
Right.
this show. The information we present is for everybody. Um, This show is also offered in that same spirit. However, we are going to talk politics in so much as I'm going to present us with some very specific scenarios and examples that
Yep.
some of our listeners may come across. So, you know, we apologize for that in advance if that sort of thing is just if you're coming here to get away from all that, we understand. The reason we're doing this is to get away from all that as well. But we are going to have some scenarios today. Um, I want to hit you with a real life scenario, Jim.
Okay.
There is a science fiction writer. You and I are both familiar with him. We are not going to mention his name on the air because I don't think we need to give him any oxygen or any promotion. Um,
Okay. Now I know what you're talking about.
yeah, I say science fiction writer, but he's not really famous or known for his science fiction books. What he's famous and known for is his claims that there is a criminal conspiratorial death cult uh, composed of either thousands of individuals or only two or three individuals, depending on when you ask him, and that they have swatted his home 53 times, I think is the number. Now, you and I, we're both family men. We have people we love and care about. If a criminal death cult was swatting your home 53 times, you'd probably go gray, right? You'd
Yeah.
probably make it very hard for them to find you. Uh,
Exactly.
this individual does not go gray. Indeed, he engages with the people he's accusing of doing this all day, every day, literally from 7 or 8 in the morning when he wakes up until well after midnight when he goes to bed. He's engaging with these people on one social media platform or another, or via email or text messages on the phone. Um, he does the opposite
Mm-hmm.
of lowering his profile. Um, the show that and the information we're going to present today is not for people like that. If you are like that, if you believe that you never back down, if you believe that you know the best way to win a fight, uh, if you don't believe the best way to win a fight is to avoid the fight, then this is not the show for you.
Mm-hmm.
This is a show for smarter, cooler heads. So, Jim, first let's define what the theory of the gray man is, because there are a lot of misconceptions about it
There are.
online and in prepper communities and both right wing and left wing forums.
Yep. Basically, what gray man theory refers to is blending into the crowd. Now, when I say that, I don't mean like wearing camouflage and literally blending into the side of a building. Okay. What we mean is going unnoticed more than anything else, where as somebody scans through the crowd, their eyes just naturally roll off of you and go on to the next person. There's nothing about you that catches their attention. Again, very much unlike the individual we're talking about, you're not being an attention whore. You are trying to avoid the attention. Now, there are a couple of different aspects to this. A lot of people concentrate on the visual, where, okay, don't wear bright colors and flashy clothing and don't wear flashy jewelry and things like that. And those things are important, absolutely, to a degree. The most important element to blending into the crowd is you have to read the room and you have to know how to blend into the crowd that's around you. Okay. And yes, the visual thing is part of it, but your demeanor, your attitude, your actions, your volume, all of that also comes in play. Think about it like this. Imagine a really busy sidewalk in, say, New York City. People coming and going, bustle, bustle, bustle. Everybody looks kind of the same. They're all in suits or, business attire, but there's one person just standing in the middle of the crowd, and everybody's got to deviate around them. It doesn't matter that they visually look identical to everybody else. The fact that they're standing still makes them stand out. Okay. So let's go back to the visual just a little bit. Understand that if your normal environment is, say again, in an urban area where it's downtown, a lot of office buildings, and you're walking around in a pair of old ripped jeans, a flannel shirt, and a band t-shirt that's 40 years old, you're going to stand out, right? I mean, that's obvious. If, on the other hand, you're wearing the suit and you go down to the honky tonk on Friday night after payday, and everybody else is wearing shit kickers, blue jeans, and flannels, you're going to stand out. You have to understand the crowd you're going to be in. Now, one thing you can do, and I can't remember if I've mentioned this on the show before. I know Brian and Dacia are aware of it. I was a private investigator for a number of years
Yeah, you've mentioned it.
before we started doing this fun stuff.
That was actually, listeners, that's how Jim and I met.
It is.
He did some investigation for me, and I was so impressed with his services that we got to talking and we became fast friends. And yeah, wow, here we are now, like 20 years later.
And if you want to go back even further, we can blame Chris Golden for that
We can
because he's the one who kind of
put us in
introduced
touch. Yep.
us. So all of this is his fault, is what it boils down to. One of the things that I would do if we were doing a surveillance, particularly a foot surveillance, um, there were a few things that we would carry or that I would carry with me to help break up my appearance just in case I felt it was necessary. Now we're not talking about disguises, and we're gonna get into disguises in a minute, okay? But that's not what we're talking about right here. Right here, we're just talking about breaking up the outline. So, for example, I would carry a ball cap. I would carry sunglasses. I would have a windbreaker, and all of these, could fit into a little bag or something like that. And if I felt like this dude spotted me more than once and I'm worried, I might duck around the corner, throw on the windbreaker and a ball cap, and I'm a totally different person. Okay. Um, Things like that can benefit you if you're trying to blend in. If you find yourself in a situation where you don't look like everybody else, if you've got a couple of things with you, like a ball cap or a windbreaker, a pair of sunglasses, it can help break up your outline and it can help you blend in a little bit better. Now, I tell you all of that to tell you this. Over the years, I've read suggestions in prepper forums about the idea of actually investing in disguises, where in the event of a major catastrophe, you're going to put on an orange vest and a hard hat, and you're going to pretend you're with some aid agency. Or you're going to have a badge and you're going to pretend you're law enforcement, with the idea being you're going to get access to areas that might be closed off because of roadblocks or that sort of thing.
You're gonna get shot, is what you're gonna get.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the part that these people don't realize. See, I've said this before, the online prepper world has more cosplayers than any Comic Con in history. Okay, there's a strong contingent of people who this is just fantasy land to them,
Right.
and that's okay. I'm not. It sounds like I'm disparaging them, and I'm not. If they want to do it, that's perfectly fine. The problem is when you have people who are particularly new to the prepper world and they encounter some of these people, they think that's how we all are. And they start wondering, okay, is this really legitimate good advice, or is this just kind of weird? Disguises are just kind of weird. They're not going to benefit you. They're not going to help you. They're, if anything, they're going to get you in a lot of trouble.
Right.
Um, but again, being able to break up your outline a little bit, be able to adjust your appearance a little bit, can be a valuable tool depending on the overall situation. Now, the ultimate goal of all of this is to go unnoticed. So if you're putting things on that are going to call attention to yourself, like an orange vest and a hard hat, you're going in the opposite direction. If you play it out a little bit further, let's say, just for the sake of argument, you put on overalls and the vest and the hat, and you look like you're carrying the clipboard and you look very official. You're going to have people coming up to you and asking you questions. You're going to have people coming up and asking you for help. What are you going to tell these people? You're calling attention to yourself. You're bringing more eyes to you rather than getting eyes away from you. You're going in the opposite direction. Um, the goal is to blend in to a degree that people don't pay attention to you, and they're not going to bother you. They're not going to see you as a threat, and hopefully not see you as a target of opportunity.
If it's in a crowd, what about eye contact? Avoid it or make it?
I try to avoid eye contact. One of the things that, before I went into the PI world, I worked in retail loss prevention for a few years. And one of the things that we found very early on, if you're out working the floor and you're watching somebody as they're concealing merchandise or whatever, if you make eye contact with them, they're done. They will
Right.
immediately put everything down and walk away. There's this unspoken thing where they immediately know who you are just by making eye contact with them. And the same basic principle applies when you're trying to blend in. If you make eye contact with somebody, well, now you're memorable. Now they're going to pay attention to you a little bit. Sometimes you can't avoid it. The best thing you can do is don't act like you're trying to avoid eye contact. Um, Act casual. Don't act like a serial killer. Um, and that kind of goes along with all this gray man stuff.
Right.
Behavior is a big thing. You don't want to do anything that's going to make somebody nervous. You know what I mean?
Right. So
Um,
let's let's pose a few scenarios.
okay.
Obviously, uh 2025, I think everyone has taken a momentary big sigh of relief now that the election is over. Relief, maybe not the right word, but everyone's taken a big sigh. They've
Yep.
let the breath out. Um, but clearly, I think everybody is now inhaling and holding their breath,
Yep.
waiting to see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you're a progressive person and you're in the heartland and you're out grocery shopping and you accidentally find yourself in the middle of a MAGA rally, or let's say you're MAGA and you pull into the gas station to get gas and you accidentally find yourself in the middle of a pro Hamas rally. Um, what are some immediate steps you take to blend in, to not get noticed, um, to make it out of there unmolested?
The first thing you want to do is keep your mouth shut. You know, it doesn't matter how you personally feel about whatever the protest is. Okay. If your goal is to exit stage right with some quickness, the last thing you want to do is engage in debate with any of them, no matter how you personally feel about it. Now, I'm not saying you need to fake it and, throw your arms up in the air and start chanting along with them.
Right.
Just don't argue with them. Just do whatever business you need to do, fill up your tank, whatever the case is, and just quietly leave. 9 times out of 10, that's going to be okay, provided you haven't plastered your car with stickers that are in opposition to whatever that protest is.
Right.
Okay. And that's one of the things we're going to get to in a little bit is vehicle and home gray man strategies.
Okay.
But assuming that your vehicle is innocuous, keep your mouth shut, keep your head down, don't make eye contact, do whatever business you got to do, and just leave. Most of the time, that'll work. If they're in front of your vehicle and they're not letting you leave, and you feel genuinely in danger,
Yeah,
then
you
take
can't go gray man at that point.
exactly. Hopefully you are armed legally and you can take whatever action you feel is legally appropriate in that situation. Yes, we're dancing on this.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a good thing to know the laws of your state and local jurisdictions as well, folks.
exactly,
You know,
exactly.
we are not the guys to advise you on any of that.
Anybody who seeks medical or legal advice online deserves every single thing that happens to them by following that advice. And I say that as somebody who was an investigator for a number of years and interacted with attorneys constantly.
Yep.
um, so, okay, you get out of the gas station and you're headed home, and you come across another protest, a larger one. What do you do? If you're able to detour around it, great. If you're on foot and you run across something like this, one of the best things you can do is link arms with whoever you're with. Don't fight opposite the crowd. Like if they're all walking towards you, you don't want to try to part the Red Sea. You want to walk across the crowd. So you're
Exactly.
not having to fight against everybody. You're just gradually moving perpendicular to the other side, so to speak. If you can duck into a store or a business, something like that until the crowd passes, so much the better. If you're able to get into a business like a restaurant or a store, we talked about egress, points of egress in a previous show. Every business, more or less, has a back door. Could be a storeroom, could be a stock room, could be a delivery door, could be the back door to a kitchen and a restaurant, whatever it is. No business just has one door. Find the other door and be on your way. You
Right.
know, if you got to hunker down for a half hour until the crowd passes, okay. If it seems like the crowd is setting up for, a long time, exit stage right, go out that back door and, keep on trucking.
So what about before we get to home and vehicle, let's talk about online presence. I mean, there are reasons a person might want to go gray in the online world, although
Yeah.
it's going to be very difficult to do these days. But maybe you're up for a promotion or a new job in the kind of field where what you say and do online actually fucking matters.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you're a public figure who, you know, like our sci-fi writer that we talked about at the beginning, you know, unlike him, you actually don't want people fucking with your family. Um, you know, one thing I always tell new writers when they enter this field, if they have small children at home, come up with nicknames for your children and always refer to them by their nickname. Don't use their real name. Um,
Right.
I've done that for both of my sons. until they were adults, or young adults, and were able to navigate the world a little better. I
Mhm.
never ever put pictures of either of them online until very recently, because
Yep.
again, they're now old enough to navigate that. They have their own presence. Um, if you're a public figure, I highly recommend you get a mail drop or a PO box or something like that, and don't have it in your town.
No.
The first PO box I got, the postmaster loved telling people who inquired at the post office, does Brian Keene really live around here? Yeah, he lives over on South Main Street. That's not helpful.
Mhm. Right. Right.
So, get yourself a PO box, a mail drop, something like that. Um, Maybe take a break from expressing your political opinions online. I know it's your space, and I know you have the right to do it,
Mhm.
but you know, free speech of any kind, be it good speech or bad speech, can have repercussions.
Yep.
Um, so these are all things to consider for an online space. What else am I not thinking of?
Well, it's kind of related to um the expressing opinions thing. Personally, I don't do politics or religion online anywhere in
Right.
any form of social media, primarily because social media is not set up to really positively engage with somebody on those topics. It just you lack the nuance of body language and tone and everything else. Misunderstandings happen like that and they spiral out of control instantly. So I avoid it altogether. Um, that said, keep in mind that even if you discuss something like that privately with somebody, screenshots are a thing and they can come back and bite you square in the ass.
They can.
Um, I think we've all experienced that to some degree, you know. Um, I had an individual who, and this is kind of going off on a tangent, but I had an individual who latched onto me very early on in my career and wanted to be my best friend in the world and help me do this and that. And they helped me out considerably with some of my social media stuff, managing groups and things like that. And over time, it got uncomfortable, and then it got kind of scary with how close they wanted to be and how involved they wanted to be. And when I started to push back against it, it got ugly really fast. So, one of the cautions I would give you related to this is be very careful who you let into your circle.
Right.
Um, I think the term you taught me was starfuckers.
I
Uh,
did. Yes, I did.
in the knife world, we call them hype men. Same kind of thing.
Right.
Um, they're out there, and it might start out with the very best of intentions, and it might never get ugly, but that chance is always there.
Right.
Be very, very careful who you allow in, and even then, be careful what you allow them to get involved with.
Exactly. So if you're driving around in a Lamborghini or a Porsche or a Dodge Ram with one hell of a lift kit and a roll cage on the back of it, probably not going to blend in, probably not going to be gray.
No.
If you have you know, BLM or MAGA stickers on your
Hmm.
bumper, or
Hmm.
anything political from any spectrum,
Yep.
probably not going to blend in.
Nope.
Um, how can you blend in? Is there any truth to the adage that? And I've asked several people I know in law enforcement this question over the years. Is there any truth to the urban legend that red cars get pulled over for speeding more than any other color car? That
Not that I'm aware of. That said, they obviously do catch the eye a
Yes,
little bit easier. Um, Personalized plates are another one.
Yep.
that you can run into trouble with. If nothing else, they're a lot easier to remember,
Right.
you know. What you put on or in your vehicle matters. Whether we're talking about bumper stickers or stickers in the window, things that are visible hanging from your rear view, um, and not just the political stuff. I mean, that's part of it, yes, but putting on stickers for where your kids go to school
Yep.
and how many kids you have, and all of this personal information that you don't think anything about. You're proud of your child's accomplishments. You're
Oh
proud of
yeah.
the fact that you know
These stickers that and you see a lot more of them these days, where there's an emblem for dad, an emblem for mom, an emblem for the three kids, and then the dog.
Yep.
And they even have ones now, big dog or little dog.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm a stalker, right there is my due diligence. Right there is my
Yep.
homework. Okay, they have two dogs, they have three kids.
And if you have a sticker saying that your son is a football player at the high school, odds are your house is probably empty on Friday nights.
Yep. Yep.
Think about what you're communicating to the world. Now, another one that a lot of people don't think about, these stickers that say these clever things like these premises protected by Smith and Wesson, better to be carried by or better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6, things like that. You're not accomplishing what you think you're accomplishing. What you're doing is you're telling everybody if they get access to your vehicle in your home, odds are they can find firearms.
Yep.
That's all you're doing.
Yep.
You're not convincing somebody not to break in. Oh my God, they've got a Smith and Wesson. I'm not going to break into this one. That doesn't. No. You've made yourself a bigger target, is what you've done.
Yep.
It's just like people who online, on social media, they'll be very boisterous about what they're going to do if somebody breaks into their home. Okay. That's going to be defense attorneys exhibit A through F.
Yep.
Trial, and it's probably not going to go well for you. Nobody's impressed by that.
Internet tough guys, man.
Mm-hmm.
What about the home? Because I got to be honest, here's an area where I don't have a lot of knowledge. How do you make your home nondescript? How do you make it not stand out?
Well, number one, avoid signage out in the yard.
Right.
I don't care who you vote for, but why do you need to tell everybody?
Right.
Just leave it blank. Leave it very minimal. Don't do when you come home from grocery shopping, particularly if you're of a prepper mindset and you found a really good sale on stuff and you've got umpteen bags or boxes, pull into the garage and close the garage door before you unload the car. That way people don't see you unloading stuff.
Something I never considered until now.
I wish I had that capability. My garage is currently full of other stuff, but but avoid the signage, avoid anything that's going to call attention to your home. For example, let's say you are remodeling.
Right.
Don't just leave everything pile up to the end of the project where you've got scraps and crap everywhere in the yard. All you're doing is telling people, hey, they've got something going on there. Okay. Clean up as best you can every day. Don't leave garbage just pile up. We're recording this December 3rd. So we're a little over 3 weeks from Christmas.
Right.
If you get a brand new giant TV, don't leave that TV box sit at the end of the driveway. You're advertising what you got for Christmas. Cut it up, slice it up, put it in the recycle bin, things like that. So it's hidden, so it's not visible. Other things you can do, keep up with your lawn work, your lawn care. You want to blend in with the neighbors. If the neighbors are mowing their lawn every 7 days like clockwork, get out there and do it. Otherwise, you're going to stand out. And it might not stand out for a security reason, but you're still memorable. And if you want to
Exactly.
blend in, you want to blend in, you know, keep up on the maintenance as best you can. Um, it doesn't hurt to get to know your neighbors, and I know that that's kind of a touchy subject because we want to be left alone, but at the same time, we need a community to, work together.
Right.
Um, Use your best judgment. I mean, I have some neighbors that I know very well. I have some neighbors that I want nothing to do with. It's probably the same just about anywhere.
Anywhere.
But you want neighbors, hopefully, that will keep an eye out for you when you're not home, and vice versa. One of the things that I found early on as a private investigator, every neighborhood has at least one person who has volunteered to know everything there is to know about everybody on the street. And if you're trying to get information on somebody, that's the person you want to connect with.
Right.
Interestingly enough, the other person who's really good to connect with is the mail carrier for the street.
Oh, yes.
They know everything.
Yes.
Between those two, you will be able to find out who's sleeping with who just lost their job, who just got a new car, the whole 9 yards. And it'll take you 15 minutes to get the rundown on everybody.
Yep.
Um, that's it's gray man, but it isn't. I mean, they're noticing those things. So think of it in terms of how can you not let them know what you're doing? And that will lead you down the gray man path.
Right. All right. Any final thoughts, Jim, before we hop off here?
Don't get too worked up about this sort of thing. Very few of us are CIA level, you know, we're not going to be ninjas. We're not going to just disappear into the woodwork. The whole idea here is just to reduce your exposure to risks and threats.
Exactly.
That's all it is. Don't make it a bigger thing than it is.
And speaking as someone who does know several current, full time, and retired CIA personnel, they don't look anything like they look in the movies. They look like 9 to 5, you know,
Mm-hmm.
dress shirt and tie wearing people because that's actually who they are. They're pencil pushers, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
I
Um,
used to have a very good friend who had worked for British intelligence
yeah.
for a number of years before he moved to the States. And I used to give him shit because he was too good looking.
Yep. Yeah, you'd never suspect them. They really are gray men, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, next week, I think, Jim, command decision here. We've been getting a lot of requests for this. So I think next week we're going to do something a little different. We're going to take a break from the doom and gloom. And with the holiday season come up, Jim and Dacia and I are going to talk about some of our favorite prepper related books, movies, TV shows, all kinds of media. Uh,
Yep.
not not how to books, not stuff like Jim's written,
Nope.
but fictional stuff.
Yep.
We get requests for this every week.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, in the spirit of the holiday, this might be a good time to do it. People can put it on their Christmas list, their wish list.
Yep.
We will get into that next week. In the meantime, if you do enjoy this show, please consider leaving a review, no matter what platform you're listening to it on. Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, they all have a review system. If you can give us 5 stars because you think we've earned your 5 stars, we sure would appreciate it. If you want to learn more about myself or Jim or Dacia and our individual endeavors, check us out online. Of course, howtosurvive2025.com is the best place to start. You can get
Yep.
access to all our previous episodes there as well. So, all right. Until then, just want to remind folks, it is going to be okay. It
It's
will.
going to be okay.
We'll see you next week.